Chapter 3. The State Government. State Government. Our country is governed at three levels: local, state and central. You have already studied about the local government, now we will study about government at the state level. Every government has three organs: the legislature, the executive and the administrative functions. State legislature. At the national level, we have a House of the People or the Lok Sabha at the national. Every state has a legislative assembly or Vidhan Sabha, constituted of members, MLAs, elected by the people of that state. In addition to the legislative assembly, some states also have another house, like the Rajya Sabha. It is called the Legislative Council or the Vidhan Parishad. Legislative Council. The Legislative Council or the Vidhan Parishad is also called the upper house. The size of a state's legislative council depends on the total strength of its legislative assembly. According to the constitution, it cannot be more than one-third of the strength of the legislative assembly and not less than 40. The Legislative Council is a part-nominated and part-elected body. Nearly 5/6 of the members of the Legislative Councils, MLCs, are elected and the remaining 1/6 are nominated. The common people are only indirectly involved in the election to the council. The electoral college for the council elections comprises local authorities, teachers, graduates, and MLAs. Each of these groups makes up different council constituencies. The council elects its chairman and deputy chairman from amongst its members. To become a member, a person needs to be a citizen of India and have her or his name on the voters' list of the state. She or he should not be below 30 years of age and should be mentally sound and financially not bankrupt. Legislative Assembly. Every state has a legislative assembly, also called the Vidhan Sabha. It is composed of representatives directly elected by the people from assembly constituencies within the state. States with a large population will have a proportionately larger assembly. Thus, the most populous state of Uttar Pradesh has 403 members in the Legislative Assembly, while the thinly populated state of Sikkim has only 32 members. The constitution has set an upper and lower limit for the number of seats in a Legislative Assembly. Accordingly, it cannot be more than 500 or less than 60. The assembly is led by the speaker and deputy speaker, who are elected by the MLAs. The Legislative Assembly is elected for a term of 5 years. The members of legislative assemblies, MLAs, are elected directly by the people. Once the assembly is dissolved, the Election Commission announces the program for general election to the State Assembly. Who can be elected to the Legislative Assembly? A candidate contesting the assembly elections of a state should be: first, a citizen of India; second, a voter in any constituency of that state; third, not less than 25 years of age; and fourth, in the case of a seat reserved for the scheduled castes or the scheduled tribes, a member of any of those castes or tribes. Law making. The process of making and passing laws is called legislation. The house where this takes place is known as the legislature. Our representatives both at the center and the state, the MPs, MLCs and MLAs, are the people involved in the lawmaking process. So they are called legislators. What are the steps involved in the process of making a law? A bill or the draft of a proposed law is introduced either in the Legislative Assembly or in the Legislative Council of the state. It is discussed in the House and amendments are made, if necessary, before it is put to vote. If the bill is passed, it is sent to the governor for approval. It becomes an act only after the governor signs it. State functionaries. Governor. The governor of a state is the nominal head of the executive. She or he is appointed by the president and holds office for a term of 5 years, during the pleasure of the president. It means that a governor can be removed by the president at any time. The term can be extended as well. Eligibility. To be eligible for the post of a governor, a person must be a citizen of India and at least 35 years of age. She or he cannot be a member of parliament or state legislature or hold any salaried government post. Governor, nominal head. Chief Minister, actual head. Council of Minister. Advocate General. Civil Service Officer. Powers and functions of the governor. The powers and functions of a governor are similar to those of the president, but at the state level. The governor appoints the chief minister and other ministers, the chairperson and members of the State Public Service Commission, and the Advocate General. The first session of the state legislature opens with the governor's address. All bills passed by the state legislature have to be approved and signed by the governor. If needed, the governor can hold back a bill and send it for the president's consideration. The governor also has the power to grant pardon and suspend or reduce a sentence passed by the courts under state laws. If the ruling government has lost the confidence of the Legislative Assembly or the government machinery has broken down, the governor can recommend President's rule in the state. In such cases, the governor runs the state administration on the instructions of the President. Chief Minister. The Chief Minister performs the same functions in a state as those performed by the Prime Minister at the center. After the general elections to the Assembly, the governor invites the leader of the party that has won a majority of seats in the House to form the government. The other parties form the opposition. Powers and functions of the Chief Minister. The Chief Minister is the real head of state. The main functions of a Chief Minister include the following: to advise the governor on the selection of the Council of Ministers and its size, to preside over cabinet meetings, to distribute portfolios among ministers, to appoint a deputy chief minister, if needed, to retain charge of some portfolios, if needed. The total number of ministers, including the chief minister, cannot be more than 15% of the total strength of the Legislative Assembly. Ministers are chosen by the chief minister from among the legislators. There are three categories of ministers at the state level: deputy ministers, ministers of state, and cabinet ministers. Council of Ministers of its state. The Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to the Legislative Assembly. For any decision taken by any member of the Legislative Assembly, the entire Council of Ministers is responsible. If there is any problem regarding any decision, the whole council has to take responsibility. Powers and functions of the Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers is the real executive of the state. Each department in the state government is headed by a cabinet minister or minister of state. It is his or her responsibility to run the administration of the department smoothly. It formulates and decides the policies of the state and implements them effectively. It is the responsibility of the Council of Ministers to maintain law and order and ensure security of life and property of the people in the state. All major appointments of the state are made by the governor on advice of the Council of Ministers. Majority of the bills are introduced in the legislature by the Council of Ministers. It prepares the budget and decides the financial policy and tax structure of the state. Civil services. The decisions of the ministers are executed by officers of the civil service. They are the ones who run the administration at the state level. In the same way as it is at the center, some officers of the Indian Administrative Service (IS) and Indian Police Service (IPS) are appointed at the state level. The State's Public Service Commission (PSC) also selects a certain number of officials. The Advocate General. Each state has an official called the Advocate General who gives advice to the executive on legal matters and performs other legal functions assigned by the governor. She or he is appointed by the governor and holds office during the pleasure of the governor. Only a person qualified to be a High Court judge is eligible for the post. The Advocate General can take part in the proceedings of the state legislature, but does not have the right to vote.